I'm glad that mic's gonna make me warmer because I don't have to do it myself. Just by the way of some thinking, next Sunday morning, I'm going to start with a build up to the Christmas time. To just go over some of the things we're going to be doing. If you happen to have any favorite Christmas passage in the Bible that you'd like to be preached from, go ahead. I'm really racking my brain over several different ways I want to go. And by the way, I don't have much bracket to do up there, but I'm not trying to. Next Sunday morning, we're going to be finishing up or starting the third of our videos on the incredible animals. This was a little bit longer than the other ones, so we'll probably have to break it up in 2 Sundays. So there'll be next Sunday and then the Sunday afterwards. Then on the 19th, I believe, correct me Nancy if I'm wrong, 19th will be our luncheon after church.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And then on the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, Sunday morning, we will be having a special put on by our trio of angels. I had to think of something.
That's good.
You like that, the trio of angels?
So for example.
Did I hear somebody say the reason their angels are always up in the air harping about something?
Oh, you just killed it.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. Now, next Sunday, might be a little bit distraught, I think, because I feel building that it will be 7 years that my wife passed away on December the 6th, which is next Sunday morning. So keep me in your prayers if you will, please. We will probably start the study on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock on the 31st, I'm thinking date-wise. And that's the book, the textbook that you have, the study guide that you have on preserving our Christian heritage. I like what Willie said. He says, Willie really enjoys what we're doing right now as far as these are concerned. He says he learns more, he retains more when he sees it like this. And by the way, I thought the video we saw today was exceptional. I thought it was good. So we just need to remember that we're doing this, it's being done for the purpose of edifying, strengthening, and being able to be better Christians in this world today. You all know me, I like to tell jokes. And if you haven't looked at the outline that I passed out today, you will see that I start with a joke. It is about a traveler, and Mike emphasized that we ought to be praying for all the travelers that's on the road today. Maybe it was one of these people that travel over Thanksgiving holiday, I don't know. But he stopped at a motel because he was getting tired, he was getting late at night. And he had still a great distance to go, and he got his room and went up to his room. And he settled down, and then he looked around. He went back down to the desk, and the person behind the desk happened to be the owner of the motel. And he says, I noticed that I don't have a television in my room. I would like to have a room with a television in it. And the owner of the motel stood up and looked at him with a frown on his face and says, I do not believe in television. He said, it does nothing but filth on it. It advocates sin. It robs people of time. It destroys the social life of a person. I will not have a television on my property. So the guest thought, well, what kind of a nut is this? Started to walk off, and then he turned around and said, oh, by the way, I would have called down here to tell you about this, ask you about it. But I don't have a telephone in my room. I do not believe in telephones. They interrupt a person when they're busy. They are a lot of scam that's taking place on the telephone. It is the source of a lot of gossip that takes place in the community. And all you do today is see teenagers walking around just looking at their phone, poking and texting people. He says, I do not believe in telephones and I will not have one on my property. So the guest thought for a moment and says, well, I'll just deal with it, endure it. And he looked at the owner of the motel and says, where's your Coke machine? I would like to have something to drink. The owner of the motel says, I do not believe in soda pop. It is full of caffeine. It is full of sugar. It's not healthy for you. And therefore, and if you happen to spill, it will leave a gummy surface on wherever you do. If you don't wipe it up, and it's hard to clean, I will not have a soda pop machine on my property. So with that, the guest got a little bit exasperated and looked at the owner of the motel and says, well, what do you believe in? And the owner of the motel stood up very proudly, stuck out his chest, and very proudly announced, I believe in the second coming. To that the guest replied, well, they come here the first time, but sure they will not come back the second time. Now you can tell Smitty that. I believe in the second coming, don't you? I firmly believe that there's going to be a time in which Jesus, the trumpet of God, is going to sound. The dead shall give up the grave shall give up their dead. And Jesus is going to stand on the earth, and we're going to see the whole thing come to an end. Several weeks ago, I preached a sermon on, is this the end of time? And a lot of people are thinking this is the end of time. And Steve was telling me something that's on Facebook right now, and I'm not going to get involved with it, but it's extremely interesting. People are trying to figure out what's going on in space. And I told him that it was Santa Claus coming to town, and he told me that he thinks it's the chariot of angels coming back to earth to be able to execute judgment upon the earth. Just a matter of difference of opinion. What I don't believe in is a lot of the fantasies that people have attached to it. Sometimes I think that some of the people that have come up with the ideas about the second coming of Christ, that they would be great science fiction writers for Hollywood. I had one preacher that believed with all his heart and nothing you do to change his thinking, that he said that when Jesus comes back again, he's going to come back riding on a white horse. I still do not understand where he ever got that particular idea. And it was basing it upon the opening of the various seals of the book of Revelation. I believe that Jesus is coming again. And I think a lot of the things that we hear on television, a lot of things that people believe, that they are actually the ideas that are clouding and shrouding the very basis of the teaching of the second coming. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is now start emphasizing what the Bible emphasizes about the second coming. And forget about all the fantasies that people have added to it. One of the things that come to my mind is the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew, and I referred to this back 2 weeks ago. I think the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew is one of the most misunderstood chapter of the Bible. But one of the verses there, the 13th verse of the 24th chapter, it makes the statement that he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. I think that is the purpose of the teaching of the second coming. That we might endure to the end, that we might be assured of the victory. It's like the old black preacher one time was challenged about his faith, about his dealing with the temptations of the world. And the preacher says, well, I've read the end of the last chapter. And the emphasis there is we win, and I'm going to stay on the winning side. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Several years ago, when I was preaching down in Corbin, Kentucky, I think I've told this before, but I'm going to tell it again. I walked into the hospital. It had a big waiting room, or lobby there. It was a brand new hospital. And over, stuck in the corner off to one side, was about 15, 20 preachers. Baptist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, and all these things. They all knew me. Including in that particular group happened to be the Roman Catholic priest who was a friend of mine. But as I walked in, the Baptist preacher, who was one of the big shots in the town, and where he went, it was a big shot, Don Mathis was his name. He called me over and he looked at me and says, Phil, what do you think about the second coming? And I says, he's coming. And he says, well, that's not what I mean. He says, I want to know if you're post, pre, all, or what. Now, I know what some of our preachers would have answered. I know one preacher that would have answered one pro-millennial. I'm for it whenever it takes place. Another one would have emphasized the idea that he's pan-millennial, that in God's mind everything will pan out when Jesus comes again. So you think of those things. But I looked at the preachers that were there and I said, my response was, what difference does it make what I am? No matter what view you have as far as the future and the second coming of Christ, if you believe in it, you will find comfort. During your day, you will find strength to overcome. And you'll be able to give your life and endure to the end as a result of what God has promised. I never will forget what Don said. He said at that time, he said, well, fellas, he says, I think that ends our discussion. He said, Phil is 100% right. And they all walked off. Think of some of the scriptures that you have there. Matthew 10:22. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Interesting. Revelations 2:10. Fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. Ye shall have tribulation 10 days. But be thou faithful unto death, I will give thee a crown of life. Galatians 6:9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, but in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. 2 Thessalonians 3:13. But ye, brethren, be not weary in well-doing. How interesting. Matthew 24:46. Blessed is the servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing. The idea of all these scriptures is that no matter what happens in life, no matter what we deal with, that we will always be true and faithful to the kingdom of God. Take a stand and stand firm upon what the Bible says. Certainly Jesus is coming again. And we must be faithful and loyal to him. We must persevere in our faith. There will be a lot of things in life: temptation, trials, tribulation, suffering, ridicule, false accusations. You name it, and the devil will use it. I get a little bit perturbed with our news media. And I'm going to say some things that maybe you don't want to hear. But I get so upset with these so-called sex scandals that are taking place. You let a person who's not a Christian do something like that, and it simply fades away. But let somebody that is a conservative Christian be caught in one of those things, and all you hear, look, he's a conservative Christian, he's doing that. And I think Christianity is under attack today, as well as our nation, through these things. And in order to be able to lead us down the path that God might go. But what about persevering? 4 things, I'm sorry. 4 things that I want you to think about. When we persevere, it is the mark of a true Christian. Now, I know some of you are going through an awful lot. I happen to know that there are those here that are suffering the grief of the loss of a loved one. Shortly after my wife passed away, I know that Marilyn lost her husband. In fact, I think the day that my wife was buried was the day that Marilyn's husband passed away. There's a lot of grief, there's a lot of problems going on. Now, remember one thing, Paul wrote to Timothy. And he told Timothy, he said in 2 Timothy 2, verses 3 through 5, thou endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No man warreth entangled himself with the affairs of this life, that he might please him who has so chosen him to be a soldier. If any man, if a man suffer, also strive for masteries, yet he is not crowned, except he strive lawfully. I want you to think about being a good soldier of Jesus Christ. Of really getting involved in doing the battle. We're in the battle of Satan. And we need to really get involved. Ephesians 6:10 through 12. Finally, my brethren, put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the laws of Satan. The second thing I think we ought to recognize about perseverance, it is following the example of Christ. Christ persevered into the end. I love Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verses 3 and 4. For consider him, Jesus, that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, be ye not weary and faint in your minds. Ye have not resisted unto blood, striving against sin. Jesus endured the cross. Jesus despised the shame. And he persevered unto the very end that we might be saved. Remember when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane before his death? He made the statement, not my will, that thine be done. The third thing that I see that's important, I think perseverance is an example to the world, to both believers and non-believers. When we endure to the end, when we give our life and really remain steadfast and sure and do the will of God up to the very end, I think we're giving an example to the world. Paul wrote to Timothy, be thou, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example to the believers, in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and purity. We must realize that by persevering, we are being an example to the world. And last, I think perseverance brings glory to Christ. I think of this, Christ in us. We must let the world see Christ in us. My goodness, I'm driving hardly pumped. We must let the world see Christ in us. I think one of the greatest examples of this is found in Stephen, not my son. But in the 7th chapter of Acts, when he is stoned to death, He opened his eyes, looked at his eyes, see Jesus standing in the right hand of God. Then as he was laying there being stoned, he cried out and said, "Lay not this sin to their charge." I think that was an example to the world of his faithfulness, of his preserving himself to thee. O Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Be thou forever near me, my master and my friend. I shall not fear the battle, if thou art by my side, nor wander from the pathway, if thou wilt be my guide. Oh, let me feel thee near me. The world is ever near. I see the sights that dazzle, the tempting sounds I hear. But foes are ever near me, around me and within. But Jesus, draw thou nearer, and shield my soul from sin. Oh, let me hear thee speaking in accents clear and still, above the storms of life, the murmurs of self-will. Oh, speak to reassure me, to hasten or control. Oh, speak and make me listen, thou guardian of my soul. Oh, Jesus, thou hast promised to all who follow thee, that where thou art in glory, there shall thy servant be. And Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Oh, give me grace to follow my master and my friend. Oh, let me see thy footprints, and in them plant mine own. My hope to follow duty is in thy strength alone. Oh, guide me, call me, draw me, uphold me to the end. And then in heaven receive me, my Savior and my friend. We have promised, when we accepted Christ, that we will be true, faithful, steadfast, loyal until the end. Is there one here that needs to make a decision for Christ? We're going to be singing one verse of our invitation. Just as I am.